Good morning. I got two words. I'm sorry. That's you're stuck again. I was notified on Thursday I had to do this, and I'm like, you kidding me? I mean, nothing else is going on in my life, so let's get up here and talk again. I want to say, Janelle, I remembered you, but I didn't pray for your daughter and your son-in-law, and I apologize for that. God bless both of you. I'll say it every Sunday. You have a wonderful mother. I hope she lives forever. But man alive, that has got to be the toughest thing on this earth right now. I feel sorry for me sometimes, and I think of you too. And this, God bless you. Again, Julie, thank you. Janie, thank you. We had to go back and we had to find something I did 14 years ago and then kind of add some stuff to it. I didn't know what to do up here. I mean, I like to listen to other people. This is a little longer, so let's get going here. There's an old parable of a farmer who owned an old mule. The mule was walking carelessly one day and fell into the farmer's well. The farmer heard the mule braying, or screaming, if you will, very loudly. The farmer went to check out the situation, and when he saw the mule, he carefully assessed the situation. While the farmer was very sympathetic, he also didn't have the means to get the mule out of the well, and neither the well nor the mule were worth the trouble of saving. So instead, he called all of his neighbors together and told them what had happened and enlisted their help to haul dirt and to bury the well and put the mule out of his misery. Initially, when they began to throw in the dirt on the old mule was hysterical and screeched even louder. But as the dirt continued to hit his back, a thought suddenly struck the old mule. It dawned on him that with every shovel load of dirt, he could gain ground if he would simply shake it off and step up. He repeated this over and over to himself to encourage himself. No matter how painful the blows were or how distressing the situation seemed to be, the old mule fought panic and just kept stepping up. It wasn't long before the old mule, who by this time was battered and exhausted, stepped triumphantly over the wall of that well. What seemed like it would bury him actually blessed him, all because of the manner in which he handled his adversity. If we face our problems and respond to them positively and refuse to give in to panic, bitterness, and self-pity, the adversities that come our way that could bury us have within them the potential to benefit and bless us. This old mule down in the well screaming is where I find myself regularly. A year ago, I had a 20-year-old employee send me a text of resignation without notice. It was in my garment store, and there were no other options to work but me. Talk about a gut punch. That felt like an entire truckload of dirt had dumped squarely on my head. That moment, I had to make a rapid decision. Am I going to let my 22 years of doing this business be buried? By the way, saying buried's hard. Say that 4 or 5 times in a row. Buried by the tremendous load that was just dumped on me, or am I going to shake it off and take a step up? Many times I have not done a very good job of shaking it off and stepping up and looking up. Instead, I have just laid down in the hole and screamed. But I found out quickly, no one can help you if you're not willing to help yourself. This has been a tough year. But church, I can see the light. I have, by the grace of God and the help of my family and my employees, mainly Annika and my wife, that I had to put that in there, been able to shake it off and step up. I still have days that threaten to put me back in the well. I wake up determined that this is going to be a great day. Then I hear it, the beep on my phone, and I get that dreaded email from the bank that I have a bunch of return checks. And then I feel it. The dirt is coming down on me, but I am determined. I'm going to shake it off and step up because I get tired of being in the bottom of the well screaming. So, how do you shake off the dirt? How do you get to the point of being able to look up rather than around you at the storms raging? When my employee quit and left me high and dry, and I was down in the pit of that well screaming, my wife asked me, "What are your plans for picking yourself up and dusting yourself off?" I told her that I hoped my circumstances would change. She replied, "Hope is not a strategy. You must have a plan." Now, wait a minute here. This is a wit saying this. You have to have a plan. I'm like, okay, you're throwing these words back on me. That's what I always tell my wife. You got to have a plan. Well, that day I got it right back in my face. She said, "Do you have anything in your life that encourages you? If so, write it down." And so I did. This would be a good time for everyone to take a moment to count your blessings. At this time, I'm going to ask Clay to lead the congregation in one verse of 742.
When upon life's billows you are tempest tossed, when you are discouraged thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord hath done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God hath done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God hath done.
Thank you, Clay, and we're going to do that one more time. So when I sat down to count my blessings, it wasn't long before I realized that I had far more things right in my life than things that were wrong. Here are some of the things that come to my mind when I actually sat down and counted my blessings. My wife and my son encouraged me. Number 2, I am blessed with the opportunity to go to heaven because I'm a Christian. I'm inspired by my son who chose to stay around this area and work in a long-term care facility to watch over my mother. And also that job pays him very well. I live around a wonderful family, and that gives me great comfort. I love live music. Not as much as my wife, but I love live music. I couldn't get her to go to a concert in Dallas for 14 years. We move out here and we got to travel all over the place. Julie and I have had the joy of going to concerts of bands that remind us of our youth. This 2 to 3 hours allows us to have an escape from this world that is on fire, and it takes us back to happy days when we were young and carefree. This last weekend, we went back up to Denver to Red Rocks. Unbelievable place. Unbelievable. We loved the concert, but it was an exceptional time because we were surrounded by God's beauty and majesty. And Julie got to catch up with a high school friend in John Bob McMahon. Number 6, another blessing. I'm fortunate that my best friend is my wife. That's the only friend I got, but she's my best friend. I was blessed to be raised by 2 parents that chose me to come live with them through adoption. My birth mother was 15 years old. It would have been an easy decision for her to abort me. I am thankful that she chose life. You know, I don't understand that. Never would. People have asked me, "Don't you want to know who your mother is?" I don't know. No, I had a mother. She raised me from 2 weeks till today. And my mother, unfortunately, has Alzheimer's. And she's not able to know who I am anymore, and that's tough. But my mother and my father gave me a very great life. You know why? Because they put me in the Church of Christ in the 2nd week of my life, and they kept me there. And I'm grateful for that. Number 8, I love being able to live in a free country. Right now, anyway. I have been blessed to own and operate my own business and employ family members. Annika has been a blessing, and I'm going to say this. I know she's not here. She has been a very, very unbelievable blessing, especially in the last year. That lady, that girl knows how to do anything, any problem that involves technology, and we have a lot of it with Western Union, whatever. She can get it fixed in a day, and I'm very grateful to have her working for us. I have been blessed beyond measure to have a wonderful mother-in-law who was so good to my son, and to have known my father-in-law, who in a short time frame inspired my life so much. I'm encouraged having a church family that loves each other in the good times and in the tough times. We are going through one of those tough times now looking for our minister, but I have been encouraged by the men that have stepped forward to share messages from their heart. Number 14. That's a lot. I get inspired when I think of the young people that have come through our home in HCCYG and the differences they are now making in their communities. During our recent VBS, the plays and the tour guides were manned primarily by young people. And I want to add another one. When Teresa was here, there was a young man that came and sat with us for about 6 months, Ty Harvey. This kid was in a bad place. He had a bad home life. And today, he's gone into the pipeline corrosion field, and he has turned his life around. And there's many examples of that over the last 10, 15 years of young people that have come into our home searching for something. We tried to plant the seed of God in their daily life, that someday, even if they didn't accept him right now, that when they had a family, they would understand that, you know what, I remember when I was in the youth group in Hooker, and we got to go into the Church of Christ home, and we got to, learn about God and then get fed. Maybe they'll take their kids to a church, and it'll be the Church of Christ. That's what we've been trying to do over this entire, time frame. So with all that's right in my life, what could possibly cause me to get down and depressed? Why do I allow myself to become discouraged and to let loads of dirt to be heaped upon me without shaking it off and stepping up? And the answer to that is simply this: it's Satan. Satan would like nothing better than to tear us down, make us feel unimportant, make us feel unsaved, motivate us to make wrong choices or to take our eyes off Jesus. In 1 Peter 5:8, the Bible says that we must be very, very wary of Satan, that he goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Revelations 12:10 states that Satan is an accuser of the brethren. In other words, Satan wants to keep stirring up the pot. He wants us to stay in turmoil. However, there is a way to combat Satan, and obviously that is going to the Lord. At this time, we are going to be led in one verse of a song, "Where Could I Go But to the Lord" by Clay again.
Living below in this old sinful world, hardly a comfort can afford. Striving alone to face temptation sore, where could I go but to the Lord? Where could I go? Oh, where could I go? Seeking a refuge for my soul, needing a friend to save me in the end. Where could I go but to the Lord?
Christ does not want us to stay in the well of troubles. He wants to give us the strength to overcome our troubles. He provides the answers in the following few verses. John 16:33. I have said these things that you may have peace. In this world you will, not might, not maybe, but will have tribulation. In other words, troubles. But take heart, I have overcome the world. In Psalms 46:1, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. In Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God, and I will strengthen you and I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. One more, John 14:27. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, but that I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Speaking of not being afraid, I mentioned this last Sunday. My wife and I went to a concert in Denver. We had the privilege to worship with the folks at the University Church of Christ there, just about 10 miles south of downtown. This day did not start out like I had planned it. We got up and got ready, but when we went to retrieve our car from valet, they could not find our car. We had checked in at 1 a.m. the night before, and the night valet had misplaced our keys. I'm not sure when the last time you've been in downtown Denver, standing on the street, but let me tell you, it is not the faint of heart. It's unbelievable. I mean, this town has changed big time. Yet there we were, standing and waiting. And just a minute. By the way, at Denver, if you want to go to Casa Bonita, you got to make a reservation now. And it costs $40 stinking a person to go there. So that got thrown out. I wanted to go see the guy dive off the cliff again, or the cliff divers. They still have them. Yet there we were, standing and waiting. And while we were waiting, you have Julie on one hand, who is oblivious to her surroundings. She thinks we're in Hooker or somewhere, just, She was looking up and down the street trying to find somewhere to buy her a pop, for gosh sakes. A Diet Dr. Pepper. I, on the other hand, was keeping my eye on a person that had walked down and back the same block as if he were casing the place. He went 15 minutes, he walked back and forth 4 times on his phone, looking at all of us, just looking at us, back and forth. I was like, whoa, this is not good. On the one hand, Julie was worried we were going to be late for church. I, on the other hand, was worried someone had stolen our car and we wouldn't be able to drive home the next day. I let my surroundings bring fear into my life. In other words, a load of dirt coming down on top of me. They finally found our car and we made it to church, and what a blessing. This church was very friendly and welcoming, and we felt right at home. But you know what the kicker was? The title of the sermon was "Do Not Be Afraid." God finds me where I'm at to remind me that it is Satan that causes fear, and the phrase "do not be afraid" or fear shows up in Scripture 365 times. This seems coincidental, or maybe it should be our daily reminder that peace comes from God and we are not to be afraid because God is with us. After reading these passages, how can we conclude anything except that if God be for us, who then can be against us? And that's found in Romans 8:31. Christ has given us all the encouragement we need to shake up the dirt off and look up. Encouragement is our buffer against Satan. How then do we lead encouraging lives so we can keep ourselves uplifted, but also those around us that need it? Over in 1 Thessalonians 5:11, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as you are doing. Okay, fine, but how is that done? Number 1, say encouraging words. As a child, we learned if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Words do make a difference. Yeah, you don't have to be little to get that told to you. I get that told to me about every month. And you know what? My wife is right. They do make a difference. Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Also in Proverbs 10:11, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life. Your words have an impact. Be an encourager. Number 2, think positively. Look for things to encourage. Are other people the happiest when you enter a room or when you leave it? I know the answer to that for me. It's when I'm leaving, and that's not good. Do you bring sunshine or gloom in the room? Realize that we all have problems, and encourage one another. Also, ask God to help you develop a positive thought life. Immerse yourself in His Word. Pray. Over time, you will discover that you can control the way you think. Over in Philippians 4:8, it says, write it out, post it where you can see it regularly, and commit it to memory. It states, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. When you wake up in the morning, ask God to help you look for and focus on the positive. Pray for that attitude. And the third thing to encourage others is to speak positively. Be an encourager, encourage others daily. That's something I fail at miserably, and I'm trying to do better. But I guarantee you, when you're on the other side of that, it is sometimes, it's when you get encouraged, it's a way to get through that day. Bring friendly speech into your relationships. Voice words of encouragement, appreciation, support, and respect. Monitor your positive and negative remarks. This also includes sarcasm and subtle criticisms. You know, the kind that where you say something cruel or sarcastic and then say, well, I'm just trying to help. Respond to problems with hope and encouragement. Listen with compassion and avoid simplistic advice. 2 Corinthians 1:4 states, God comforts us in all of our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. The way you speak usually is more important than whether your opinions are right or wrong. Speak in a courteous, friendly, and loving manner. Satan wants to keep us in the well that we have fallen in. Christ has provided that alternative. Will you choose the Son? We have the choice. On one hand, we have the well. On the other hand, we have Jesus, the Son. The choice is yours. I'll end my lesson this morning with an illustration of this choice that we have. Years ago, there was a very wealthy man who loved his son very much, and they shared a passion for collecting art. Together, they traveled around the world, adding only the finest art treasures to their collection. Priceless art, works by Picasso, Van Gogh, Monet, and many others. The elderly man looked on these treasures with satisfaction as his only child became an experienced art collector. The son's trained eye and sharp business mind caused his father to beam with pride as they dealt with art collectors around the world. As winter approached, war engulfed their nation, and the young man was called to leave the service country. After only a few short weeks, the father was notified that his son was missing in action. The father waited anxiously for more news, fearing he would never see his son again. Within days, his fears were confirmed. The young man had died while rushing a fellow soldier to a medic. Distraught and lonely, the old man faced the upcoming Christmas holidays with anguish and sadness. The joy of the season would not be joyous because the father would never see the son again. On Christmas morning, a knock on the door awakened the depressed father. As he walked to the door, the masterpieces of art on the walls only reminded him that his son was never coming home. He opened the door and was greeted by a soldier with a large package in his hand. The soldier introduced himself to the father by saying, I was a friend of your son. I was the one he was rescuing when he died. May I come in? I have something to give you. As the two began to talk, the soldier told the father that his son had told every one of his and his father's love of fine artwork. The soldier then said, I am also an artist, and I want to give you this. As the father began to unwrap the package, a portrait of his son was revealed. Though the world would never consider it a work of genius, the painting featured the young man's face in striking detail. The father was overcome with emotion and thanked the soldier. He promised to hang the portrait over the fireplace. True to his word, he took down the painting worth millions and put the portrait of his son above the fireplace. Then he spent Christmas gazing at the gift he had been given. During the days and weeks that followed, the father began to hear of the dozens of wounded soldiers his son had rescued. His grief began to ease as he realized that although his son was no longer with him, the boy's life would live on because of those he had touched. The painting of his son soon became his most prized possession, far more than any of the priceless pieces he and his son had collected. The following spring, the father became ill and passed away. The art world was in great anticipation. Since the father had passed away and the only son, who was also dead, the art collection would be sold at an auction. According to the will of the father, All the artwork would be auctioned on Christmas Day, on the day the Father had received his greatest piece of art. The day finally arrived, and art collectors from around the world gathered to bid on some of the world's most spectacular paintings. However, the auction began with a painting that was not on any museum list. It was the painting of the Father's Son. The auctioneer asked for an opening bid, but the room was silent. "Who will open the bidding with $100?" asked the auctioneer. Moments passed as no one spoke. From the back of the room, someone said, "Who cares about that painting? It's just a picture of his son. Let's forget about it and get on to the good ones." More voices echoed in agreement. "No," replied the auctioneer, "we have to sell this one first. Now, who will take the son?" Finally, a friend of the Father spoke up. "Will you take $10 for the painting?" "That's all I have." The auctioneer said, "Will anyone go higher?" Silence. The auctioneer said, "Going once, going twice, gone." The gavel fell. Cheers filled the room, and someone shouted, "Now, can we get on with the auction for the real treasures?" The auctioneer looked at this audience and announced that the auction was over. Stunned disbelief quieted the room. Then someone spoke up and asked, "What do you mean it's over? We didn't come here for a portrait of some old man's son. What about all the other paintings? There's millions of dollars worth of art here. We demand an explanation." The auctioneer replied, "It's very simple. According to the will of the Father, whoever takes the Son gets it all. So it is today. Our Father loves us very much. He doesn't want us to stay down in the well of despair. He has sent his Son who gave his life for others. And because of that Father's love, whoever takes the Son gets it all. The choice is yours, the well or the Son." If the church here in Hooker can assist you in any manner, would you please come as we stand and sing?